up, sorry, Sarah's recording, up until, this school year, so I've taken that over for her. And this is one of the requirements that we have to do. This Sarah is our regional coordinator, so she's going to do a little presentation for us. Okay? You're good, Sarah. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Schroth, and I'm the regional coordinator for the Region 6 program, Region 6 office for the program. Our program is called the Education for Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness program, and our program follows under the under PDE and under the McKinney-Vento Federal Act. So today I'm just going to walk you through what our region looks like, the impact of homelessness on children and youth, students specifically, and also discuss with you what the safeties and provisions are of the McKinney-Vento Act federally. So our region, just briefly, is made up of 11 counties, including Clearfield County, which you all are part of, your district is part of. And in those 11 counties, we serve 63 school districts. My office itself is located in Indiana County. We're at intermediate unit number 28. That serves primarily Armstrong and Indiana County. But as mentioned, I serve all 11 counties and 63 school districts within our region. We also work with all of the homeless shelters, including family, teen emergency shelters, as well as victim services or domestic violence shelters. We coordinate with other social services, food shelters, community action programs. I said food shelters, food pantries, excuse me, and various other agencies to help support children and youth who are lacking permanent housing. Part of my job as the regional coordinator is to provide this professional development to all of our schools, typically on a 3-year cycle. So I might have come in person last time, but with just the timing of the school year, weather and all of the things, we're doing the virtual session today. My job is also to advocate for the students and families, but also to help support all school districts in our region. We provide families and students referrals to the agencies that I mentioned, as well as provide those resources to all of the homeless liaisons within the region, which there is one per school district, if not more. We also provide educational resources like book bags and other school supplies, as well as other necessities like hygiene products and bedding on a requested basis for students. Earlier this school year, I did drop off, or maybe that was last school year, it's all mushed together, some clear backpacks for some of your students, as I know that your district requires them. And then we also assist districts and students or families with enrollment disputes when they arise, which thankfully in our region is not very often. So as I mentioned, our program falls under the McKinney-Vento Federal Act. That act is in place to protect children and youth from birth through completion of high school who are experiencing homelessness by providing them with educational stability. That also includes kiddos who are in early Head Start, and early intervention programs. All of those programs are required to work with us in Pennsylvania, but also nationally, as it is a way to provide education for young children as well. So I think so often when we think of homelessness and we see just the word homeless, we often think of the stigmatized version that we see on TV or in the movies, portrayed on a television show, or a drama, a comedy, or in the news, right? Or on social media. We often think of an individual who is living literally on the streets, who is unkempt. Often the visual that we get is them sleeping on a bench in a tent, or them being a male, middle-aged male with long, dirty hair. Often we think of maybe even a veteran who is unhoused. But what we know, by research, by the statistics that are reported and the data that we receive across the nation, that the fastest growing population of those experiencing homelessness are women, children, and their families. Currently, the statistic is that 1 in 30 children in the United States is experiencing homelessness. So when you think about a kindergarten class, who may have 2 to 3 classrooms totaling 60 kids on average, we would have two of those kiddos in a group of 60, right? And again, that's the average, but we do know that those numbers are higher, but not always reported. In addition to the fastest growing population of individuals experiencing homelessness being families, those families are often women with their children who are fleeing their home because some sort of intimate partner violence, whether it is sexual or physical abuse. Those women who are leaving their home are taking their children and staying elsewhere for safety's sake. When we talk about children experiencing homelessness, I think it's really important to share some of these other statistics, knowing what those children are at risk for, and might be facing daily. When questioned, over half of children in the survey completed by Chapin Hall, over half of the children surveyed said that they experience at least one day per month without food, which makes us think about how kids who are enrolled in school, of course, and are attending school, are eligible for free meals, but over those summer months, long holiday breaks, or weekends, that there may be children who go without meals, which is why we tried to connect families and students experiencing homelessness with other outside agencies. Many children who are also experiencing homelessness are also at increased risk for human trafficking. And as many as 20,000 kids are forced into human trafficking networks every year. Those children are trafficked typically not by someone who has abducted them, but by someone who they may deem as trustworthy because they're looking to stay with someone when they've been kicked out, thrown out, or run away from home. Sometimes children are even trafficked by their own caregivers, their own parents, or a quote unquote loved one. We've worked with children throughout Pennsylvania and including in our region who've been trafficked by their own mothers for rent, to the landlord, or to a drug dealer for their next fix. We've worked with children and youth in those situations, with the school districts to help them continue to provide education, and helped that child get out of that situation, and get additional supports. And when we talk about kids who are leaving their homes, they're not doing so just because they want to. It's normally because of intense conflict, or fear of physical harm, or even mental abuse. And those all can be a contributing factor to their homelessness. We've worked with kiddos whose parents have kicked them out, the parents have been a professor, who have been a doctor, etc., because their children have experimented with drugs, or they've been promiscuous, or for many other reasons. It's not just because they're fighting in their home, or that the rules somewhere else are a little bit more lax. When we think of someone experiencing homelessness, as I mentioned, we often think about, an adult. But when we think about the average age, or when we look at the data, the average age of a person experiencing homelessness in the US, we actually have learned that that child is somewhere between the ages of 9 to 12. The article that this is cited from stated 11. In Pennsylvania, that number is a little bit lower at the age of 9. And in our region, we do have the data that's reported to back that up. And it fluctuates a little bit here and there. But again, when we're talking about families or individuals experiencing homelessness, that average age is an elementary aged child. So the reason that we look at this definition and why this law exists, as I mentioned, is to provide educational stability to these children. And a child who is deemed homeless is a child who's lacking a fixed, regular, or adequate nighttime residence, which is much broader than the definition that the Housing and Urban Development Program under the U.S. government defines homelessness as. When we look at those types of residences, something that is fixed is a permanent structure. So anything that can be driven away, picked up, and packed up, and moved is not fixed. So an example of something not fixed would be a camper, like as pictured, because it's not a permanent structure, as well as a car, a tent. Those are not fixed. They are not permanent structures and in a permanent place. Something that is regular is typically looked at somewhere that can be stayed in on a routine basis. So a shelter is typically limited to 30-day stays, which is again not a regular nighttime residence. A hotel is also not regular. It's not permanent housing. Nor is someone's sofa or someone's floor couch surfing from one house to another. It is also would also not be deemed regular. And then adequate. I think if we all look at this image of this home, we may know of a family or a child that has lived in somewhere like this in the past, and my brain automatically says, that's not adequate for anyone. But there are families who live in housing that doesn't look too different from this. I've had personal experience with working with a family with 5 children and 2 adults and multiple animals in a single mobile home unit just like this. Those students, those students who lived there were classified as experiencing homelessness, even though their parents were leasing the land where that camper or where this mobile home was placed, not the one pictured, but not one that looked too dissimilar from this. Adequate is all about substandard or meaning adequate space. Is there exposed wires? This one is missing some of the siding on the outside, leaving them more exposed to extreme temperatures. There could be lack of running water. There could be lack of electricity. There could be holes in the floors or the ceilings. And so adequate can be very broad in of itself. In addition to lacking either a fixed, regular, or adequate nighttime residence, there are a few other subcategories. And the one that we see the most throughout Pennsylvania is shared housing or doubled up. And that shared housing typically is because of some sort of economic hardship, illness, incarceration of a spouse, a loss of job, and there's a multitude of reasons why a family might not choose but need to live doubled up with someone else and not have permanent housing. I mentioned some of these other categories, but motels and hotels, camping situations, also barns and abandoned buildings can be common nighttime residences for families and including children, and that is due to a lack of adequate accommodations. Additionally, we also, of course, identify children and youth living in shelters or transitional housing, children who've been placed under a safety plan by children and youth agencies, migratory children who lack fixed, regular, adequate, or who may be also doubled up, and then children who are known as unaccompanied homeless youth, which is a child who's not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian, and they don't have a fixed, regular, or adequate nighttime residence. This category includes runaway or abandoned youth, as well as those who've been thrown out of their home or, as the law states, separated from their parents for any other reason. So a teenager or younger student who might be living with their boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, aunt, uncle, grandparent, and not with someone who has legal custody of them, could be an unaccompanied homeless youth, and as considering whatever circumstance it is that caused them to leave. If they are living with someone because the parent works out of town and it's a positive planned arrangement, they may not be considered homeless, but they would still be considered unaccompanied. And that would be Katrina's job to make that determination, with my assistance, and with talking with the family or the student as well about the circumstance and why they might have left their home. These kiddos have some additional protections that I'm not going to highlight today. I could talk about unaccompanied homeless youth for hours, and we certainly don't have time for that today. So when your homeless liaison, when Katrina is looking at making a determination on the student's status under McKinney-Vento, we also, in addition to where they were sleeping at night, also are required to look at what happened to that child. Why are they not in their own home? So did they experience a natural disaster? Was someone in the household ill that caused them to lose their job? Or, did they lose their job for another reason? Was there domestic violence, a divorce or separation? Did they run away? Was the family evicted from their home? And there are a multitude of other reasons why someone might become homeless. So Katrina's job is to then look at the situation that caused it to help her and do some information gathering. So, we do these trainings. You want to know, why do I have to listen? Why do I have to understand this? And it's so that because all districts in the United States are required to identify their students and support students experiencing homelessness. So you as the classroom teacher, as a paraeducator, an administrator, etc., need to know the definition so that you can help Katrina identify the students and support them. You should follow whatever your school district procedures are. So if that means emailing, a phone call, a Google form, etc., to notify your homeless liaison on what the situation is, so that she can make a proper determination on eligibility. Once they're identified, the school has requirements under the federal law to help provide the educational stability for these students. Those can include determining eligibility, immediate enrollment, attending school of origin or residence, providing transportation, and more. I'm going to talk about them just briefly. When a student's identified as experiencing homelessness, the entire time they're homeless or until the end of the academic year where they move to permanent housing, they can stay in their school of origin. The opposite is also true. If they wish to enroll in the district of residence, they may do that as well. They're not allowed to flip-flop from one district to another, but it's up to the family to make the decision or the student to make the decision on which school district they attend. If the district disagrees on eligibility, that's when the district and family could file a dispute, but that doesn't often happen. Our liaisons are wonderful. All of our school districts work very hard to provide that enrollment. I thank you, Katrina. I just want to just highlight two more things before we wrap things up. Just note that students who are experiencing homelessness are required to be provided with free transportation to and from school and free meals, and participate in all school activities, including extracurriculars. They must still meet all of the requirements for extracurriculars set by, PIAA or the school district eligibility, but they should still be permitted to enroll in all of those things. Just lastly, I just want to thank all of you for attending today's session. It will be recorded, and I thank you for identifying students, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. If you need to reach out to Katrina, please do so. I'm also going to put my contact information on the screen for you just to wrap things up. And reach out if you have any questions or need assistance for any students in particular. Again, thank you for your time this afternoon. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
I will talk to you Wednesday.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. All right, have a great day. Bye.